Good morning everybody, this is dear Mama Sal on a beautiful, truly beautiful Monday morning. It's already 16 degrees here in southern British Columbia, which would make it 60 in America. It's going to be a hot one. Now they told me that the rain's coming in any minute now. We're expecting rain for the midweek, which is great. Like that, because then it'll apparently clean up the air beautifully, just ready for the weekend, which is going to be blistering hot. Yay! We like that too. So I'm actually quite excited about that. All sorts of people out walking their dogs this morning, which of course is significant to me because it was a year ago today that we lost BeanBean. And for those of you who never met BeanBean, he was my cross German Shepherd Husky with a phenomenal sense of humor and an incredible will to be on camera. If I think about BeanBean, I think so much of all the things he did to make me laugh, because he really was quite funny. And the biggest problem with him was that he looked like he would kill you. You know what I mean? He had this German Shepherd look about him, and he didn't look friendly at all. And yet he really was incredibly friendly. You know, he was more likely to lick you to death than he was to attack you. But he made people laugh. He could do things. He could do things that would just make people burst out laughing and going, "Did I just see that?" You know, he would, for example, for those of you who don't know, he would lie at the top of the stairs with a tennis ball, and his greatest joy, for some reason that none of us can understand, was to lie at the top of the stairs holding the tennis ball between his two front paws over the edge of the top step, and I mean way out over the edge, you know, so basically his elbows were on the edge and the whole of his foreleg was out over the front top step. And he'd be holding the tennis ball between his paws. And he'd sit there and you'd watch his head move and his ears would perk up, and then he'd drop it. And it would go bouncity, 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 bouncity down the stairs, and followed by the thunderous paws of BeanBean coming down the stairs after it. Now, I don't mind telling you that my stairs have got a dog leg in them. You know, they go down and then they go down again, and the number of times that BeanBean connected the down bit, the wall at the and the wall at the end of there, was quite often. And then, really sadly, at the bottom of the stairs there's ceramic tile, not the high gloss type, you know, sort of more industrial type. I say it that way because it's like beautiful tile, but it made to be non-slip, and you know, if he didn't hit the wall on the way down, you can be sure that he'd hit the tile. So we had this sort of crisscross quilt at the bottom of the stairs of carpets for BeanBean to connect with that wouldn't slip. But you know, 85 pounds coming down at speed, not much is going to stop you. And he was always 85 pounds coming down at speed, high speed. And so I look back on a year without Bean and go, gosh, I miss that unconditional love, no doubt about it. I miss that look of his face in the window next to my door every time I came home. And the wiggling butt, because you knew the tail was going. But he was sitting there so pretty, waiting for me to come home. And somebody was reminding me at the weekend when I was talking about him that the way he would line up his toys. You know, if you came to visit, it was very difficult not to play with him. Because he literally would bring his toys and line them up in front of you. It was a case of, I don't mind which one. Pick your favorite one, but throw one. And, you know, it's very difficult to ignore when a dog brings you, you know, 6 toys and lines them up, and then sits there really pretty, wagging his butt, because he's sitting so pretty. I've watched grown men who have very strong will just fade completely. And one of the other great memories was that for a couple of years of his life, he was in the middle of renovations in my house. And for a while there, he had he had all his toys on top of the bed, because the bed was the only safe place in his mind. The bed moved because we were ripping up floors and putting down hardwood and, you know, and laminate. So the bed would move, but he knew the bed itself was pretty safe because Mummy slept there at night. So what he would do is he would collect all his toys and put them on the bed, which was very clever. And I actually had to put a lot of his toys away because there wasn't much room on my bed anymore. And, you know, there's one thing to have a collection of your dog's favorite toys, but it was the 5-foot nose to tail length of BeanBean, and, you know, 100, not 100, he was about 85, 90 pounds, I guess. You know, he was a big dog. And he never ever slept the intelligent way, you know, like a human. No, he always had to sleep across the bed. I've never quite worked that out, why dogs have to do that. So, but very fond memories. Actually, what I think I will probably do, if I can, and I'm sure I can, is to attach my BeanBean story on the end of this one, for those of you who haven't seen it. It will save you hunting it down. So, a year later, there is so much of him that I really doubt I will ever be able to replace. For those of you who don't know, I can remember the first time I took him to the vet, and he was just literally a bag of bones. The only thing that held his bones together was the skin. There was no muscle, apparently, to speak of at all. So the first time, for example, I took him to the dog park to run, he dislocated a couple of bones. Or he would always come back from the dog park limping in some way. And so after that happened a couple of times, in a couple of visits to the vet, I said, okay, fine. So presumably I should not take him to the dog park yet. So I had to spend about 6 months getting him strong enough to go to the dog park and go run. Which for a big dog is so sad. And the other thing that I remember him for was that I never went to the dog park without a bag of new toys. You know, new tennis balls, new chucket balls, new frisbees, you name it, I had it, a bag that I held on to. Because it was BeanBean's favorite thing in life was to steal things from other dogs and then run to the middle of the pond, and there was a pond at my dog park, then dive in, swim to the middle of the pond, and spend half an hour playing with that toy. Now, not everybody had half an hour to wait to get their toy back, and I certainly wasn't going to be going into the pond to go get it. So I learned just to stand by with my bag and go, take your pick. You know, you don't have to replace what he's got. If you prefer something else, just take your pick. And people used to go, you come with a whole bag full of new toys? I said, yeah. It's a very costly business, my dog. Well, why don't I wait until he comes out of the pond? I said, if you've got half an hour or so to wait. Yep. And he'd play away in the middle of the pond till his legs got tired. And then he'd come back in again. Or come back out, as the case was. And if the poor unsuspecting person had waited, then I would return the toy to them. Whereupon he would go rushing off and go and find another one. BeanBean. There's not much to top Bean in terms of personality and fun memories. He was a good dog in lots of ways. Although he scared the life out of me for the first 6 months I had him, because he really, even without strength, for some reason he could manage to scale a 6-foot fence without any problem at all. And then he'd take the local highway and use it as a running track, you know, which was very intelligent when it was empty, because there was lots of room to run, and not so much when it had traffic on it. And for the first 4 to 6 months that I had him, he escaped a lot till he realized he actually lived where we live. But he loved the car, which was the one saving grace I had. He loved the car and he knew the sound of it. So whenever he went missing, I would just quietly drive around the neighborhood. The one time I drove around quite a bit and I couldn't work out why he didn't come out to find me. And then I found him running next to the car. I just hadn't looked down next to me, and there he was, running away with me. Ah, Bean. Good memories. This is dear Mama Sal saying bye-bye for now.